Good evening, everyone. Does everyone can hear me correctly? All good? Yeah, check. Yeah, it's a bit of a COVID kind of thing where you were like, can you hear me on the line? Luckily, we are done with this. I hope so. So before we start, just a bit of an introduction. Yes, I know you are wondering how to pronounce this name. It's Guillaume, but you can call me G if you want. It's a shorter version. Yeah, the hair or whatever. So I'm the lead Android engineer here at DICE. I have been working at DICE for the past 3 years. And other than that, I started my career 11 years ago as a Java 2 Enterprise Edition. I don't know if this still exists. I'm sure it still exists. And I switched not long after to the Android. So just be at the bottom, you have like my social handle. So if after the talk you have any question or you just want to go for a drinks, feel free to check this. So tonight you are here at DICE, so maybe some of you don't know what is DICE. So we are an event discovery and ticketing platform for the fan. So you can go to any show of any kind. It can be music, art, and culture. So this is the B2C part of the business. The second part is an end-to-end event management platform for our partner to be able to like manage their event and put them live. Like this, everyone can enjoy a night out. And the third part of our business is Boiler Room TV, that is the live streaming part. In few numbers, we are operating in 7 countries, mainly in USA and UK that are our biggest market, but as well in France, Italy, Germany, Spain, India, and many more to come with the expansion that we are doing. We are 430 employees around the globe. So our 2 main offices are here in London. The second one is in New York, in USA, Barcelona, Milan, Paris, and Berlin. And we have as well some people working remotely all across Europe. We have been around since 8 years, so 8 years that we are helping people to get out and enjoy an out as like amazing shows. And 122 million is the last funding round that we did last year in November. That was our Series C. So before I jump in the main topic of today, by raising your hand, how many of you are currently working on a technical migration? If you can raise your hand if you are working on it or if you are planning to work on it. All right, it's a good bunch. So if you can do the exercise just for a few seconds, I can see like some of you are having notebook or your phone, or if you don't have either of these, just take a mental note and I just in few steps, how would you approach your migration within your team or your company in like few steps, what you will do. Within your team, how can this fit? I'm gonna give you 1 or 2 minutes if you want to write down stuff on your side and take a memory note around this. So just before, I just want to give a disclaimer on this. The following talk is about how we plan and manage at DICE our migration. So at the time, it fits the size of our team and our way of working. So this may not be like true for your team and your company, but hopefully you are going to get some inspiration from this. So the first thing that we did is to take a step back. So for me, it was quite easy because I joined DICE at the time, so it was easy to have a fresh eyes on the product and what was going on. But like if you are here since a while, it's good as well to like, take a step back on your code or on the product and like assess everything. So we look at 4 areas. So the first area that we looked at was the product vision. So we ask ourselves like a lot of questions around these topics. And for the product vision, it was like, how does the product roadmap look like? What are the headcount for the upcoming months? How big is going to be the team in a year, et cetera, et cetera. Then we assess the current technical stack. What are the current pain points for the engineers that are working in the team? And as well, what architecture or tools will fit the needs that we have currently within this migration. Then the third part was the design. So we sit down with the product design team to understand if we had any design system in place, or how can engineer and designer work closely on UI component, etc., etc. And finally, the last part was the interest/motivation of the team. And here I was like, what is the team interested in working on? Like, what tool, what technology are they like, really motivated to work on? And what text, what library as well, or like tools they have used in the past at their previous company before joining us. So what are they familiar with? And here in the end, we did the exercise to what I'm calling the big picture. So to create the destination of your migration, to know like, okay, now I know that I want to go to this way with this technology, and this technology, because this fits the needs that we have for the company. And so our big picture was this one. To be 100% Kotlin, because at the time we were 60% in Java and 40% in Kotlin. We wanted to move away from RX Java 2 and use coroutine pass-through when we were in the need of reactive stream. We have kind of a mix between MVC and MVP design pattern, and no test. So we're like, okay, maybe MVVM could be a good shot for us to be able to have all of these. And after we worked on something that was quite interesting when we started working on it, the data domain layer presentation, data domain presentation layer, sorry, to be able to separate a lot of our code. Dependency injection, again, this was already present, but we needed to have something that fits the new architecture. Then modularization per feature, because it was like a massive one package app, and the merge conflict was quite tricky sometimes. After, for the database, we wanted to go for Room, because the usage that we have of the database in our app, Room was way enough for the usage that we have. And as well, and then some decent test coverage, because we didn't have test at all. So to me, test is a bit like a parachute. If I jump from a plane, I prefer to have one. You don't know if it's going to happen, but it's still better to jump out of the plane with a parachute. And then, yeah, and then design system. So this was to be able to share as much UI as we can across all the features, and now across all the apps that we are using. So from there, in the end, as soon as you have your big picture, we had to get the buy-in from the leadership team. So this was obviously the next step of our migration. And for this, we had to build a business case. So I explained the why we need to do that. And on the why we need to do that, we tried as well as much as we could to match this with the product and company vision. Like, we are going to scale the team to like 6 more engineers. So we need as well an architecture that can scale with the product and with the company. We write down pros and cons. As an example of pros, we have quicker development cycles and a bunch of other pros. And I think the biggest cons that we had was a potential gap in feature parity between iOS and Android. So after we brought down this, we as well work with our PMs to assess the velocity of our team in each squad that we have across the product team, to know if the Android team was ahead of iOS or the other platform, or if we are at the same level, and where we could have some risk in the squad if we fit in some platform work for the migration. And the main rules that we had for this migration was this should not block the product development or business to priority at every time over the migration. So we were at a time where we needed to move fast. So we were not able to take 6 months to rewrite the app and, oh, okay, job done. But in the meantime, we are in industry, we need to move fast. So that was, this was the main rule. So we had some back and forth with the leadership team to get their approval on this business case. and they finally gave us the green light. So as soon as you have the green light, naturally the next stage was to plan ahead, and for this we needed to gain in visibility and understanding. So in the end, what we did is to list all the features that we had in app, and we place each of these features in one of the following categories that are easy. So easy, for us meant at the time features that we can migrate in 1 or 2 days on the new architecture. Medium was in a sprint. We were able to migrate this screen, and after the critical one was, for example, the purchase flow in app, where it's a really critical screen because we should not mess around on this. So it's like something that is going to take more than a sprint, or it's a really critical part of the app. So we put them in this critical category. And then we try to understand as well the product roadmap to be able to fit migration work at the right time. So here at DICE, we still have a quarter roadmap. And in the end, as you know, like every quarter, the business might change their priority, but for us, it was a good way as well to say, okay, we are going to work on the feature A or feature B, so maybe we can fit in some migration work alongside these features. So as soon as we gain in visibility, we have more understanding of the roadmap, and we knew what was the destination with our big picture. We worked on the foundation. And like foundation is like a house. If you don't want it to collapse on you, it's better to have strong ones. And so it's what we try to do with what we build with the minimum requirements that we had. So we work on this core module. So the big philosophy, like the main philosophy behind the core module was to be able, with this module, to be reused if we have to create another app. Like for example, right now we have the fan-facing apps that you are all using maybe. And so if tomorrow we have to create a second app, we could reuse this core module because it's app agnostic. So you can be like date formatter or price formatter, et cetera, et cetera. Then we work on our network module to be able to do the call to the API. The analytic module to be sure that we are able to track what our fans are doing in-app as we do on the old architecture. And the navigation module, so the navigation module, what we had is that we wanted to navigate in-app like you will navigate on a website. And on a website, if you want to navigate from a screen to another, it's via URL. So in our app, we navigate from a screen to another just with URI. So that was as well one of the modules we work on. And lastly, we worked on the design system module to be able to reuse as much as we can components, so like event component, et cetera, across all the features that we have in app, because a lot of our features are using event card, et cetera, to book events. So yeah, that's what we worked on. So as soon as we had this foundation, the next step that we took was to write the documentation. And I think sometimes documentation is quite overlooked, but I do feel it's really important. So here, what we document at the time was the data flow in every layer to the dependency graph in between layers. We as well document some of our strategies that we are following within the team. So we are following the main strategy that we are following is a fail fast one, where we try to fail as fast as close as possible from the source of the issue. So for example, you are getting a JSON that is corrupt because it doesn't follow the API contract that you set with the backend team. Then we fail directly when we pass the JSON, and we do not pass over to the other layer some default value, because otherwise it starts to be complicated when you want to investigate things. We document as well what to unit test and why, and as well we had the URI map of all the screens that we are going to have in app. Documentation are really important for many purposes. First one, for onboarding. Every time you want to onboard someone in your team, it's really important to have some documentation that they can look at to find answers. And another part that is really important is the handover. And when I say handover, it's like, for example, here at DICE, when our team joined, the previous lead was not around, so we had like a month's gap, and there was no documentation, so we didn't know where he wanted to bring the app, what was his big picture, and what we could have pushed knowing that, okay, we have this documentation, we know what you wanted to do, etc., etc. So for handover is like really good. And even like if I go on holiday and my team has some question, they are not reaching out, they just go to the documentation. So as soon as we had this with the team, we finally built our first feature on this new architecture. So for that, we worked on this feature, the friend profile. Two architectures were working side by side, so the old one and the new one. And we follow rules as well when we needed to have like bridges in between architecture. And this rule was we needed to create bridges that are one way. So that means the old architecture can know about the new one, but not the other way around. And this really helped us along the line during the migration. Even so, sometimes we had more work to do because to follow this principle, we had like to find some workaround to do that. But along the line, it really helped us to like move pieces easily during our migration. We did as well a lot of Teams code review to bring everyone up to speed on this new way of doing. So we spent quite a lot of time reviewing this new feature. And then we shipped it and monitored it. So this was a bit like, it was like really interesting to see this new profile being more stable than other part of the app. So we were like, okay, we are getting more and more confident that we made the right choice. It's a bit like looking at a child taking their first step. You're like, okay, cool. It's really nice to see. And so after that, we start to migrate more and more of our features. So every new feature that we were working on were directly written on the new architecture. And like when we had to implement new features in existing part of the app, we were trying as much as we can to rewrite them on the new architecture. And along the line of the migration, we had to communicate a lot and stay focused because at this point there were no way back. So when you are in this migration, you know the destination and you know that there is going to be up and down. So people go through some phases where they will feel overwhelmed, and that's okay. And as a team lead, is as well your role to reassure people and take on a day by day, because people get overwhelmed because they see these big pictures that is far away and they're like, oh, there is a lot of things to do. And so you are here to take it by day and find the solution to the problems that you are facing right now, and not seeing too much ahead with other part of the migration. Communicate across the business. This was as well really important to be sure that everyone was aware of the state, the progress of the migration, and the success as well of every feature that we were shipping in terms of monitoring. Plan don't go as planned. It's okay. It's fine. We just communicate about it. Reassess, readjust, and it's fine. When we started the migration, was February 2020. We all know what happened in March 2020. We all went home, worked remotely, and as well us, DICE, that was doing a lot of live events, had to switch our business to live streaming. So it was challenging at the time, but it's okay. You just reassess, readjust your roadmap, take advantage of your product roadmap, to readjust the migration plan. And so as well, when we had to work as well on a second app. So we had to create our partner-facing app, because at the time we started the migration, we only have the fan-facing app. So we work on OnSite, that is the app that is used by our partner to be able to sell tickets at the door. So as soon as we were done with this migration, something that we had to look at was the performance. And in the end, we see a lot of improvement across every feature of our app. We had better testing, not hard when there is no test, to have better testing. But better testing means less regression, and as well we had a faster QA. So every time we were shipping new features, the time in QA was less and less, which was really good. We as well improved and optimized our or build Gradle to be able to like have reduce the build time of our app. So where we are at right now, we scale the team with 3 more engineers. We have 2 Android apps. So as I was saying, the fan-facing app and the on-site app for partners. We are now at 99.8% of crash-free user compared to 97.4 before. I know that it's only 2.4% difference, but it's still a big improvement, I guess. Our build time is 3 minutes right now, so it's 60% faster. And I tried on the M1. So you can see down the line after a year of development how much time every engineer are gaining of their day, or less coffee break. Depends which side of the piece you are looking. One thing that I like to look at and keep in mind is like 6 weeks is the average time that it takes for new engineers that come in the Android team to get up to speed on the project. And this is one of the parts that I'm really looking at because, again, we are a small business, more or less, now that we grow fast. But we still need to, like, being able to bringing new people and them being up to speed quite, like, we don't want to rush it. We want to do it in a good way, but they need as well to, down the line, being autonomous on the project. And I think it's as well, this 6 week can, how can I phrase that? Can explain the technical choice that we made as well for our technical stack. So we went for MVVM because in the community is one of the design patterns that everyone is familiar with. And same, like we use Coroutine, and there is like as the Android community is quite big and there is a lot of articles like this, so that's why we made some choice as well to go with some technologies that people are familiar with. And as well, something that can't be really quantified is the engineer satisfaction and learning. And this, I think, is like during the whole migration, our engineer really learned a lot about their technical skill, but as well as person that, it's really like rewarding when you see that you are shipping things and things are better than before and you have an app that is more stable. So as soon as everything was looking good for us, the last part in the end was to celebrate, of course. So for this, so we started the migration in February 2020, and we were done with the migration in September 2021. So this is one of the messages that I post. We have a thank you message on our Slack channel. So I don't remember if at the time we were still in lockdown or not. If not, I'm sure we went to the pub after. But yeah, I just wanted to give a big shout out to the Android teams that help us on this. And you are going to say, okay, but what next? Like, you ship it, now everyone is good. Okay, cool. Well, we know it, the never-ending story. So what we did is that a bit before we merged this last PR that was removing the old part of the app. We were like all shouting in the office. No, I don't even know because we were still remote at the time. So I sat down with the team and was like, okay, let's assess our app again and our product. Where are we heading, and what are the current pain points with the new architecture? And then we had to get the buy-in from the leadership team again, and then planning again, and then building the foundation, shipping and monitoring, etc., and do it all again. So just before that, so our new big picture was Jetpack Compose. So in July 2021, August 2021, we start to say, okay, now we want to have like Jetpack Compose in the app. We want to share as well more and more code in between the two applications that we have. So we wanted to create some Maven libraries at least for the core components and for the design system, and consolidating the current architecture. If you are using Dice, just for your information, we are currently running an A/B test where the main screen of our app, that is a discovery screen, is fully in Compose, and a bunch of our app, or a bunch of part of our app is using Compose. So you remember a bit earlier I asked you to do like a note, like a mental note, or like on your paper, to know how would you approach the migration. So after this talk, how would you approach it? Like, is your list have changed or not? And I do hope this talk was interesting and help you to readjust or take some idea to put it in your notes. Thank you.